Anuswami, mute everybody. Just keep the speakers and Panaras mute.
Yeah.
Sir, all the participants can please mute your audio and audio, please. You can start the program now.
Good evening, all of you. And I heartily welcome all the members and participants on behalf of Ballari branch, Hubli branch, and Gulbarga branch. Today we are conducting the CPE meeting on opportunities for young chartered accountants across the globe. And we have with us our SIRC member, Sri Pannara sir, as keynote speaker, and eminent speakers, Mr. Pandu, Ellur from Indonesia, and one more speaker, Miss Shilpa from Houston, USA. To deliberate us on the topic opportunities abroad. I request our chairman, Ballari branch, CA Honor Swami, to welcome the members and participants.
Thank you, Vinod sir. Good evening to all the members. I am happy to invite you all for this virtual CP meeting of Ballari branch, jointly with Hubli and Kalaburgi branch of SIRC of ICI, on the topic of opportunities for new avenues abroad for young CAs by the speakers from Jakarta, Indonesia, and Boston, USA. I welcome speakers for the meeting. CA Pandu Ellur sir from Jakarta. Welcome you, sir. Pandu sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
One more speaker. I welcome CA Shilpa from USA. Welcome you, madam.
Thank you.
And also very good morning. Good morning to you. Now I welcome our chief guest for this meeting, CA Pannara sir, SIRC member and ex officio of Ballari branch. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
I also welcome our co-chairmen of Hubli branch and Kalaburgi branch and all the members of Hubli, Ballari and Kalaburgi branch to this virtual CPE meeting. Best to choose an area of interest one is passionate about and willing to go that extra mile to be specialist in. Great spiritual Guru Swami Shivananda had rightly said, put your heart, mind and soul into even our smallest acts. This is the secret of success. So I hope that this VCM will help some of the young CAs of our fraternity in doing to work abroad. Stay home, stay healthy and stay happy learning. Thank you. I now request CA Vinod sir to continue the proceedings.
Thank you, Chairman sir. Now I request SIRC member Sri Pannara sir to present his keynote inaugural address, sir. Pannara sir.
Yes. Good afternoon and thank you for this opportunity. And I don't know what to say to Pandu. Good morning or good afternoon. But
Sir.
Good evening.
For Pandu sir, good evening.
Good evening and good morning to Shilpa ji.
Good evening.
It's a historic event in the Ballari branch and also the Kalaburgi and Hubli branches, it seems. I hope even Hubli and Kalaburgi branch also have not had any speaker from abroad directly speaking on the online mode. Please, most all of you keep your this one on mute mode. Am I audible?
Audible, sir. Audible.
Okay. And
mute everybody.
On behalf of Ballari branch, Hubli branch, and Kalaburgi branch, I very warmly welcome both the speakers as special guests to this, because it is a historic day, as I already told you, that speakers from abroad are speaking. During my college days, my professor was telling, the world is flat. The world is flat means that concept, the first concept was global village concept, and then another concept was world is flat, globe is flat. So flat, it was called because of this reason. We all are connected to in a single platform and also in a single screen from across the globe. So that is the happening, and I am recollecting my professor's statement today. And it is very thrilling for these small branches at Ballari and Hubli and Kalaburgi to host such a event from speakers abroad. It is very, very important. I also recollect the days when I was chairman of the Bellary branch in 2008, when I made a statement by 2020, every country in the world should have one CA at least from Bellary. That's what I had a vision, and most of it has come as a reality today because of pandemic. Maybe some more students, some more CAs from and around Bellary, and I'll even take up Gulbarga and also Hubli for this matter. By the end of 21st, at least, if at least every country across the globe has at least one CA directly or indirectly from Bellary or Hubli or Kalburgi, our vision of 2008 will be satisfied, and that will be fulfilled. I am doubly thrilled because of that. For the information of Mr. Pandu and Ms. Shilpa ji, these branches were started with a very small numbers. We're all even much less than 200 now even, including the members in practice and those who have their addresses here and are having some other branch at some other place also. So in these conditions, and when we are growing global, the connectivity also is very, very vital. The institute as ICI has taken lot of initiatives to connect various countries to ICI through IFAC. Through IFAC, we have even adopted the code of conduct, code of ethics, now in line with international standards that are adopted by IFAC. So, even in the areas of practice, many chartered accountants from abroad also spoke on various occasions during the last 3-4 months through webinars, virtual meetings. So thanks to this COVID, we were able to connect online with almost all the across the globe with almost all the chartered accountants of Indian origin, and stretch our wings to those countries. It's a very heartening day, as I also very, very to that. I am small and medium practitioners upliftment. It is only congregation members at the like the very worthy being their activities to become partners in nation building. And nation is not only for Mangalore, the big cities, even to Kalburgi and all, also all part of nation building. These places, various professional is where it become by correcting the circumstances, services fetch. We will be able to make our go beyond the boundaries and across the globe and find their place in different parts of the globe and bring laurels to our native places. To mention about Pandu, very happy we recently met when we had a foreign trip there. So I'm happy to receive Pandu here. You have put up 17 years of experience. I am in 34th year of my practice. So my wings cannot reach the beyond the boundaries of the country, but definitely it will be very helpful to those who are from Bellary to reach to the other services. So also Shilpa ji, who has a very, very, very high profile, and her husband is from Bellary. She is connected through her husband to Bellary. There is some disturbance, Mr. Swami. You mute all. And now she is first a member of the ICI and then has become member of American US Institute, that is CPA, and also has acquired a certificate course in the UK. You can see just 10 years of her practice, her professional life has begun, and she has at least 25 years of professional practice left, professional services left behind her. So we both of you will be doing a great job today in helping the accountants from these areas to reach out to the global arena, and with this we become real partners in nation building. So with these words, I am also eager to listen about the opportunities that are there across, so that I can guide across the these regions, at least official part of Karnataka, the small and medium as well as uh, these official places. So with this, I am happy learning. Once again, bottom of my heart, thank both Mr. Pandu and Mr. accept this invitation to speak on this day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving your opening remarks and very positive vision for chartered accountants across the Hubli, Kalburgi, and Ballari for the new opportunities. And now it's my duty to introduce both the speakers for today's program. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Pandu Ellur. He's a native of Ballari and has completed his chartered accountancy course in the year 2003. He has a very vast experience in diversified sectors and geographies. At present, he is a co-founder at Finshoot Consulting Indo, an Indonesian-based marketing entry consulting firm, making investors' journey smoother and pleasant. He has a vast experience in corporate finance, corporate structuring, financial modeling, business valuations, trade finance, and strategic advisory. He has held various senior positions at different companies like Sharaf Group UAE, Investor Reality Bahrain, Triveni Indonesia. He has worked across many countries like Middle East, UAE, Dubai, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, and Singapore. Here I present before you Sri Pandu Ellur. Another speaker, Miss Shilpa Bogram. Though she is not from Ballari, her in-laws are in Ballari. She is from Bangalore. She completed his chartered accountancy 10 years back in the firm, articleship from the firm Deloitte Audit and Assurance Group in Bangalore. After her articleship, she joined Caterpillar Financial Services in the financial accounting and reporting role. At present, she is currently a manager in Deloitte Advisory Group in Houston, Texas, USA. She joined Deloitte Advisory Group in the year 2015. In the accounting advisory role, she focuses on advising clients on complex auditing accounting standards, supporting clients with implementation of new accounting standards, internal control assessments, technical accounting research, and ERP implementations. She has served some of the largest companies in energy sector in US. Her other educational and qualifications are Master of Science Accounting from AM University, Texas. And one more certification course he has completed, Certified Public Accountant from AICPA. And one more certification course, Diploma in IFRS ACCA UK. Here I present before you a dynamic and eminent speaker, Shilpa Bogram. Now over to Pandu sir to present your views today.
Thank you, Pandu sir. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Ellur Somi, for giving me opportunity to share my experience and also share my knowledge in the overseas opportunities. And also thank you all the management committee of Ballari branch of SIRC and also the Hubli and Kalburgi area. And also thank Mr. Kiran Kumar Jain for giving me one more, for recommending my name for the speaker. I would like to present my case, present the opportunities in case of like through a presentation. Let me take through like to presentation. Let me share the view. Is the screen is visible to everyone?
You can see
Yeah,
it.
visible.
Yeah. See, I mean, like outside, everyone will be curious. Like, there are a lot of opportunities outside India for sure. Like, Indian chartered accountants are on the pinnacle of accounting board, and no doubt, like there is no other course for to learn accounting course other than CA. I mean, there is beyond it. So, like, firstly, I would like to inform you about the run through about what are the perspective of outsiders towards Indian chartered accountants. I mean, everyone is well aware, like, hello, is it audible?
Audible.
Hello.
Audible. Go ahead.
Chairman sir, please mute everyone.
Yeah, I mean, whenever who is having any CA certification, everyone is believed like in most of the countries there are like no need for even like there are cases in my case like there was no need for
Yes.
interviews as well. It is by default it's a benchmark known knowledge that like they are very much expert in the area of finance and they are super diligent and also problem solvers and they will hold very great analytical skills and also in terms of understanding of the financial statements. There is no, I mean, no one can challenge them. By default, it is understood that like they are well aware of financial statements. And also in most of the countries, like withholding these degrees and all, in terms of getting working visa is much easier. I mean, especially it is a challenge in the Southeast Asia where like if you're holding a lesser degree, the chances of getting visas is very less. So from per se of chartered accountant is viewed as a very highly professional degree, and so the chances of getting a visa is very much easy as compared to other certifications. And coming to abroad, coming to opportunities abroad, like I would like to say that like we can view as like there are few countries where there is no need for further additional qualifications, and there are few countries where you might they might prefer along with CA they should have additional qualifications. Like for example, in countries like Australia, in addition to their own CPA Australia, they would also prefer Indian chartered accountants without any doubt. And also in Middle East, I mean, directly they can get the placements with just Indian CAs. There is no need. They are also treated on par with any other qualifications in the accounting board throughout the world. And also in Singapore, along with Singapore Chartered Accounting, Indians also there are many Indians practicing and also employed in many sectors in Singapore. It is very well known that like and Indian CA happens to be the second largest accounting board. So like by default, even in Indian Singapore branch, sorry, even in Singapore, like CAs are very much well respected. Also, like straight away they are considered for employment. And coming to Indonesia in particular, there is a huge gap in, I mean, where we can see there is a huge gap in supply in terms of supply and demand. Hardly like I can say in coming to Indonesia, there are hardly like for a population of 225 million, there are hardly 2,500 CAs, local CAs. So given that entire gap, there is for anyone, there is a lot of opportunity in Indonesia per se in terms of employment, per se in terms of practice as well. And also like, I mean, huge gap, even like anyone, whoever gives time, like let's say 3 to 5 years, they can have a well-established practice over here. I mean, and also it is in the very niche, like developing stage in terms of regulatory implementations and all stuff. So I can say Indonesia stands some 10 years or 15 years behind India in terms of regulatory implementation. And no doubt, when coming to African countries, by default, there are countries like Tanzania, Mozambique, and also South Africa, and also East African countries like Burkina Faso, and a lot of other countries. They completely rely on Indian chartered accountants, and there is no, by default, like, especially there are a lot of Indian companies who prefer to place their Indian chartered accountants to help the operations over there. Now there are few other countries where like they might require additional degrees in addition to CA degrees. For example, like in CPA in US and all the US countries or European countries, they prefer CPA their own accounting certifications as compared to Indian CA. So there are like every country that they have their own CPA certification. The famous among them are mainly CPA US, which happens to be the largest accounting board, and CPA Canada, ACCA, and also CPA Ireland, and also CPA Australia. And our institute has like facilitated like you to make it easier journey. Our CA Institute has like entered to make the journey easier with a lot of MOUs and also multiple countries accounting board, so that like anyone who is aspiring to be a member of any other foreign institute, like there are very fewer exams and also fewer criteria, so that they can become a member of that respective country. To name a few. Firstly, like we have a MRA with the CPA Australia. The criteria is very less. By passing only like 2 examinations, they can become a member of CPA Australia. In the same way, CPA Canada and also CPA Ireland, with South Africa, Kenya, and BIBF Bahrain, and also Tanzania, and many other countries like Nepal, Bhutan, Muscat, and others. And at the same time, one of the beauty part of this MOUs also, like currently, for example, there are many exams which you can stay in India and write exams and gain the certifications. So there is no need to further travel outside India and get those certifications as such. So mainly, there are like each country, they have their own criteria of selecting the people. For I mean, it's not that like everywhere it's uniform. The areas of requirement, and generally, like I feel, what experience I see, there might be different views as well. But I feel if I want to classify which areas demands more employees, most of the chartered accountants. Let me go to the next slide. When it comes to Middle East, like there is no own country's own accounting board. So they rely completely on they follow US gaps, and for such that like, and also there is no compliances as such like you have in India and other countries like Singapore or other non-tax-having countries. So mainly the appointment from the per se, their work is from the per se of internal audit or proprietary audit. Another big area, so like most of the people, apart from normal accounting and all stuff, the biggest area there is for internal audits. There is a huge demand for internal audits in the entire Middle East countries, right from UAE to rest of the countries like Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi, Jordan, Oman. There is a huge demand for internal audits. Like most of the top positions in the banking sector is held by chartered accountant. By default, for they prefer chartered accountant. Even like most of the relationship managers in the banking sector is yes, and also another area the demand in the Middle East is for investment banking, corporate finance, trade finance, and also finance and accounting and advisory. In the same way, in Middle East happens, and also like for UAE, it happens to be trade hubs. So there is a huge demand for trade finance related appointments. And in the same way, like Singapore also is like it happens to the gateway, I mean financial gateway to the Eastern Asia economy. So there is a huge demand in terms of in the area of banking, investment banking, corporate finance, trade finance, audits, finance and accounts and advisory. And coming to Indonesia, the major demand where we see like where the major CS are placed apart from finance and accounts, it's internal audit, again corporate finance and trade finance. And mainly the finance and accounts are appointed where the business are held by the Indian groups rather than local investments. So the finance and accounts area is mainly the management would prefer Indian chartered accountants as compared to the local talent here. So that's the reason the scope of finance and accounts is lesser in Indonesia as compared to other areas of work. And nevertheless, there is a huge demand for the advisory here because of the scarcity of the chartered accountants in Indonesia. There are hardly like 2,500 chartered accountants, of which almost like 50% of chartered accountants are above 60 years. So there is a huge gap. Even the government is pushing, encouraging the people to take up the course here. So there is a huge gap here. Now coming to like how, this has been prepared from the perspective of the young chartered accountants rather than very experienced chartered accountants to guide them, like if they want to plan their career abroad. So keeping per se, I suggest everyone like one of the quickest choice through will be campus placement. But as you know that there are very few MNC companies like Aditya Birla, Jindal. Those companies will be taking only the first time, or in single attempt or rank. They have huge operations outside India, so they normally prefer only chartered accountants to head their finance department. At the same time, I don't suggest anyone who just without any post-qualification experience to try a chance abroad, because the problem with trying with that will come is like basically the salaries will be very less. They will be treated as a normal. They'll be treated as like it become grad and with bit of experience, you'll be on par with them. So I strongly suggest that I don't recommend people with lesser than 4 years qualification don't try to get a abroad career. And at the same time, one of the other easiest ways, like once if you get a Big Four audit experience, that is one of the easiest way, because Big Four audit firms have presence in all the countries. So once you are there and gather some experience, and if there is any internal, if there is any vacancies abroad, and you can try over there, and it is much easier way to explore abroad. And in the same time, during these 4 years of preparation, I strongly recommend the members to try for any foreign certifications, like especially CPA. CPA is like valid throughout the world. That is to get an, in fact, as a launch pad, I can say that it is one of the most valued course outside India. And at the same time, like during this 3 to 4 years of journey, I suggest to have a good network with headhunters and also social networking, and also like if possible, if you can make any association with the foreign chapters if possible, because they normally foreign chapters have restrictions to become a member. You need to be working there, but some with paid membership and all, you can still participate in their chapter. And also, I want to throw a bit light on the income range in general. Like just to give a rough idea, whenever you're whenever you're like going for interview or bargaining there, rough range I can give in general, especially when it comes to Middle East. I can say that like easily for 3 to 4 years experience, I can easily expect around $60,000 to $100,000. This is in general. There might be like more highly paid. Like if you are good enough, you can even target for the C executive level positions where the salaries are much higher, like $150,000 to $200,000. But otherwise, normally this with 3 to 4 years experience in Middle East, you can target for any head of finance roles or financial controller, and also CFO positions. All these salaries, what I mentioned here, is basically per annum salaries, $60,000 to $100,000 per annum, and this is in fact post tax. So especially in Middle East, you don't have to worry about taxes, because it is currently there is zero income tax. And coming to the industries in the Middle East, mainly and to the retail is very prevailing, retail sector, and after that oil and gas, and also the trade sector, commodity sector. for trade purpose. And coming to Singapore, Singapore East Asia, Singapore area, it's mainly the demand is in the investment banking side and also the real estate and also commodity sector. There is huge potential scope for trade finance people and also the corporate finance people. And also there is a demand for coming to Indonesia. The salary, since Singapore, Indonesia happens to be low-income country, especially the one can easily target up to $40,000 to $60,000 for per annum, per annum. But nevertheless, I mean, this is only the beginning of the salary. Over a period of time, with experience and all, you can easily climb up the ladder. And no doubt, there are a lot of opportunities further as well. This is only for I'm saying the salaries per se 3 to 4 years of experience. So experience is much higher for sure. The salaries are a bit very say a lot. And in Indonesia, it happens to be a commodity prone economy. So the opportunities are the salaries might be much higher as compared as I mentioned here. Now, coming to the cost of living, I want to throw a bit of light on the cost of living in the respective geographies as well. So, major criteria I've taken for explaining the cost of living. Basically, in any country outside, in the major cost comes to your housing, education, and medical. If these three cover things, this is the major expenditure outside India, and it is far exceeds what you spend in India. So, I would like to throw bit of light on these expenditures. For example, in Middle East, the rental allowance will go for 20 minimum. Like if you want to take a decent housing facility, it costs you $20,000 per annum. And also in the same way, like in Singapore, it's around $30,000, and Indonesia, it's $12,000 to $15,000. And next big expense in outside India is basically the education part, which is very vital to consider before you jump on the career path outside India. In Middle East, it will be around 10,000 to, minimum should be $10,000, and there is no range. It goes up from there depending on the school they choose. Singapore, the minimum it starts for per annum, it's around $24,000, and Indonesia, it's $4,000. The same way, another biggest expenditure for outside India is basically the medical. Normally, whatever I mentioned here, basically the insurance cost, not necessarily expenditure. Medical insurance in Middle East, it will cost you around $1,500 to $2,000, and Singapore around $2,000, and Indonesia around $1,000. And just to give a brief idea on the lifestyle as well, I feel like the lifestyle, of course, you will be liking the lifestyle outside India. It is you'll have comforts at your zone, and also it will give an opportunity for you to adapt with multi nationalities, and also you can develop your broad network across the globe. And also it will give by staying overseas, you will be able to assess the different geographies much closer. This is my perception. Apart from whatever you read on the newspaper, you will be in a better position to assess the geographies, what's happening across the world economy, and also the geopolitical views you can easily give as compared staying in India. And also at the same time, the other lifestyle I would stress on is the working environment. Basically, there is I don't know. I have been working. Hello. Hello. Hello?
Audible. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
sir.
point is
Carry on, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, carry on, sir.
Yeah. The other point I would like to raise is the working environment. Basically, when I used to work even in Bangalore as well before trying my luck abroad, the major differentiator I find is basically the timings and all stuff. And here, in the last 10 years, I don't remember when I was logged, apart from when I was in, uh, in the accounting field. Otherwise, like 9 to 5 is the cutoff time, and moreover, after 5 o'clock, we hardly get any calls. And also, you'll have a lot of time for yourself and family. And at the same time, it's only 5 days a week, and rest of the 2 days you won't be even called. I mean, there'll be no one to disturb you as well. That is one of the major reason for anyone to choose if they want work-life balance if you're into employment basically. So that is one of the major differentiators I can say that like most of the people, I think a lot of people agree on that working abroad will give a lot of work-life balance, and also ample time for personal development and also for family as well. And these are my personal points where I would like to say that my views stating that what you should consider while choosing an career outside India. First of all, I would say like you have due to a lot of the changes happening around the world. It's huge and it's very fast. So whenever you choose a country, I suggest that you should select a country where the economy is quite strong and it is sustainable. Because due to pandemic COVID, we can see that a lot of economies are falling apart, and a lot of unemployment is generating. And the primary targets in any country, whenever this recession happens, the major target will be the highly paid people, and one among them will be chartered accountant for sure. So I suggest like whenever you choose anyone chooses career abroad should be even they should focus on the economy of the country as well. I mean, there might be given a chances that like you might get in Africa or in Singapore or in Middle East or in US. And in Africa for sure, because of the risks and all, you might get a better paid. And there is a lot of compromises in terms of lifestyle. So because of those reasons, you might pay very high as compared to other countries. But at the same time, it is not a strong economy. So I suggest you choose sustainability, and also where there is you can play long basically. And I also suggest like based on my experience, I'm out of India for the last almost like 15 years, and due to ignorance or lack of knowledge while I was going out of India, I would have preferred if I had a knowledge on this PR stuff and also immigration policies. If I was aware, I might have opted for the countries where they give citizenship options and also PR options. I was in Middle East, even though you stay for 10 years, 15 years, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, if you lost your job or like if there is no opportunities, you need to go back home. They don't care even if you stay for 10 years or 15 years. That is similar is not the case when you compare with European countries or US or Australia or for that matter Singapore as well. There are criteria. If you spend some more longer time and if you have stayed for 10 years and all, for sure you can opt for citizenship option. So I feel like whenever you choose whenever you take a decision, you choose a country where like you have those opportunities. Hello, hello, yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So and also other thing is like I would stress the point is like you also choose from the perspective of your education and medical. There are a lot of countries where the pays are good, but at the same time the education is not good and medical is not up to the mark. Especially I can say that Africa, like a lot of countries, they won't be having a good education system and also medical. Even the facilities will be there, but you need to compromise on medical. So while choosing a career option, I suggest you also take care about the basic amenities available in that particular country. And the other option, I would say, like you also consider the visa, travel, and social life. whenever you are in, like, there are few countries, if at all, like, for example, if I'm holding a Singapore working visa, with that working visa itself, it allows me to travel all ASEAN countries without having any visit visa prior approval. In the same way, like, I suggest, like, there are multiple countries where, like, if you're having visa and Indian passport, you can just stay there. That's it. You cannot travel outside that country. So also, I suggest, request you do your thorough homework on visa options. For example, at the same time, if you're working in Middle East and if your destination is like above manager, then you are allowed to travel entire Middle East without any prior visa. You can just board a flight and just cross the country. So you can, but that is not the case when you're working with African countries, and even for that matter, even Indonesia, we don't have that options. But there are a lot of countries having their visa on your passport. It allows to travel multiple countries during their holidays without having any prior visas. And also, you need to, I feel, whenever you choose, you need to consider even social life for yourself and your family. That matters a lot. The reason I chose, I preferred UAE. One was like, okay, I mean, that visa, taking out that visa option, citizenship option. I chose mainly the access to the back home was much easier. It was hardly like 2.5 hours, multiple flights, and economical for me to travel back whenever there was a long holidays. So there was not much difference, as if, like, if you're working in Middle East or in Singapore, or it is as good as like you're working within the country, like say Delhi or Calcutta. It is same equal distance, and also the time zone is not much far. So that was the criteria I choose for staying in these countries, especially Middle East and Singapore and Indonesia. And coming to social life, when you stay in Middle East and all stuff, you don't feel that you are outside India, because every third or fourth person you meet or you meet is in India. So you don't feel that you're living in India. It's just like any other cosmopolitan city in India. But only difference is, like, there are a lot of almost like 17 to 18 nationalities people in Middle East. So you don't miss back home. If you're a kind of a person where you love to very close home, then I say that, like, and also plus the food. The greatest part of Middle East is the food. You're not going to miss not even a single famous restaurant of India. So, and moreover, if you are a vegetarian, I prefer Middle East as your next home. And also similarly, Singapore is on par with. You never feel that you are outside India. It is like so close access to India. So for us, like anyone, especially if people who are choosing career options outside small cities, let's say Bellary, Hospet, or Gulbarga, Hubli, I prefer, once you're out of home, you're out of anywhere. So either going to Bangalore, I say it is the same as, like, you can go to Middle East or Singapore, because the travel is hardly 3 hours. The lifestyle is almost like similar. The social life is like especially in Singapore and the Middle East, all South Indians, more precise. So you never miss home in these countries. Sorry. Now we can, so this is like, this was a brief summary, brief information for the career opportunities outside India. We can jump onto the question and answers.
How about job security over there?
Job
security
like,
and retirement.
As I told you, like, the first target will be normally CS are taken for their higher positions, not for the smaller positions, because any CS coming will be basically for the top position of the finance department. So we will be always like, whenever anything goes wrong, he is the one to take a hit. Either he has to take a hit on the paybacks, otherwise you need to take a call. So there is no job security as such. As long as economy performs, you're there, and as long as you compromise on your pay structure during the bad times, then you will be retained.
Retirement age over there.
See, from the visa perspective, normally it's just a sec. Or normally like it is they don't entertain more than 58 to 60, and also the biggest challenge will be for the dependents as well. So normally getting dependent visa other than your family, for parents you cannot expect that, especially in the countries like Middle East and Singapore and Indonesia, as far as I know, the social for parents and all, getting a visa is very difficult. They don't entertain only your family, like family say per se, family per se, your wife, spouse and kids are taken as if dependents. For rest, they don't encourage uh, much of the visa, giving visas to them. And also from business per se, like to add more, which is not covered on my presentation, to or like to give why I mean, apart from this, whatever I given the presentation, it was basically from the per se of employment. So other than employment, why people go to, I mean, either Dubai or Singapore or Hong Kong, basically from the perspective of the trade facilities, banking exposure, and also, I mean, can also structure maximum tax benefit. And per se, especially I can say Singapore, sorry, Dubai, Middle East, the major factor for any people driving the force for them to go to Middle East is the zero tax. It's complete zero tax. You don't have to pay any single thing as a tax. And moreover, the beauty of the Middle East is like if you don't have any presence to trade within the Middle East, even you don't have to pay indirect taxes as well. Currently, like since last 6 months, there is a indirect taxes in Middle East, especially in UAE. So if you're that is only applicable to the companies who trade there. Suppose you're having a company and do trade outside Middle East or Dubai, you don't have to even pay that indirect taxes. And also dividend tax is zero, and money is easily repatriatable. You can repatriate money at whatever, like wherever you want. There is no restrictions as such. Same way in Singapore as well. There is no restrictions as such in terms of capital gains, again zero, dividend tax zero, and at the same time, like only corporate income tax is at 17%, but no questions asked for the repatriation. It's like money is easily moved in and out, provided it is for a valid reason. So that is the beauty of this two countries, where there is a lot of new companies are formed. Almost in Singapore alone, it is like as small as if you compare, it is as good as like Bangalore or something. That's it, not much more. So it almost forms more than 100,000 companies per annum. So you can see the amount of businesses attracted in Singapore. So major driving is a tax regime, and also like mainly the financial structure is like that. All the major banks in the world are present in Singapore and Middle East. The accessibility to finance is much easier, and also it is a trading hub in terms of Asia, and also when it comes to Middle East, it is like UAE is treated as a gateway between the connector between the Africa, Europe, and between the Asia.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Is there any
Yeah,
other?
any of the members, any of the participant, any question or any clarification is required, you can directly chat to the Pandu, sir. We can meantime start the second speaker session. I request Shilpa Madam to present your paper.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, audible, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, I would like to thank the branch, the ICA branch and the committee members, and also Gajraj sir, who recommended my name and giving me an opportunity to present in this seminar. I'm greatly honored to be presenting in this seminar. And good evening, everyone. Hope everybody are staying safe and healthy in this current health situation. I have a few slides that I prepared to drive my discussion. Let me present them. Okay. You should be able to see my screen. Let me know if you're not able to. So I'm going to be focusing specifically on the opportunities in US for young CAs. So it kind of gave a good segue from discussion that Pandu sir had. So when I say young CAs, it's probably it could be by age, by mind, and in spirit. So it could be for everybody if you want to. And some of the topics for discussion that I have is to give an overview on the general how the chartered accountants are currently in US and in what kind of fields they are and how what's the recognition. And I would also go through the CPA exam and licensing part because that's very important when it comes to a career in US. The higher education, the employment opportunities that you will see here, the skills development and the networking, and most importantly, the US immigration laws. And I think when I get specific to that, you will know why that's becoming that why that'll be very important when it comes to having an opportunity in US. So with respect to overview, I did want to start off with how the chartered accountants are in US and in what kind of positions they are, because I think that's where you would aspire to be, or you want to know what the limits they could reach in US. It's not a surprise that with the capability and the skill set that the chartered accountants bring, and they're in very high positions today. That I'm personally have met a lot of chartered accountants who are in U.S. in Houston who occupy like significant positions in companies and big fours and public accounting firms. I have seen they being managing directors, partners, vice presidents, controllers in big companies, managing significant work roles in their positions. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the recognition of the chartered accountants as such in US. It's kind of, I would say, unfortunate that the CAs they don't get recognition as much they should in US. It's not because they're not capable of it. It's more to do with the folks around here or the people around here are not knowledgeable about the rigorous or the structure of CAs and as such. So I think already the efforts have been taken by the ICAI to make that recognition in US. So recently there were 5 ICA representative offices that started in US by the ICI, and Houston is one of them. So it was a proud moment for all of the chartered accountants in Houston to see a ICA chapter being opened in Houston. So and there are in 7 cities today. I think there is one in Dallas, Houston, New York, San Francisco. San Francisco, Chicago. So totally about in 7 cities there are ICI representative offices. So hoping that this will bring together all the CAs in the specific regions, which will give a good forum for the chartered accountants coming in to US and into US and also it will be good to have a MOU. Currently, there is no MOU or a mutual recognition agreement with the US, but it'll be good to have that in future. So on a positive note, it's not that it's impossible to see that happening. So there will be a mutual recognition agreement, hopefully, and an MOU in US, which will give much more recognition to CAs in India. And something that I have seen personally is since there are a lot of chartered accountants that are going into employment in US, so they recognize other chartered accountants when they're pursuing opportunity. Just to give an example, like when I was applying for jobs when I came to US, in one of the companies when I was interviewing, the interviewer happened to be a chartered accountant from India. So she instantly recognized me and she said like, oh, you're a chartered accountant from India. I don't even need to interview you to give you a job. So that's kind of the recognition that's been is what I'm saying, but it's still not to the extent I would have expected or what the chartered accountants deserve. So hopefully that might get to a place where it should be in some time. So it's probably a matter of time where the recognition reaches what it needs to be. And the next thing I want to talk about was the local certification and education. I think Pandu sir kind of touched upon it and said like it's important to have a local recognition and education, especially for those countries where they automatically don't recognize chartered accountancy. So I will touch in detail in further slides as to what kind of certifications and educations you could do if if you're interested in pursuing a career in US. And in doing all of this, it's definitely helpful in leveraging chartered accountancy curriculum in further pursuits. So meaning we have a rigorous curriculum in chartered accountancy. So we touch upon various subjects in our curriculum, and also we have a rigorous 3-year training of articleship, which lays a very, very good foundation in your job pursuits anywhere in the world, and also to progress and grow in your career. So one thing that I have seen personally is that when you're a chartered accountant, your growth gets accelerated when compared to other accounting professionals in other countries. So you always have that have that leverage or like a head start already being a chartered accountant. For some reason, I'm not able to change my slides. Okay. Sorry about that. The CPA exam and licensing. So as I was saying that it becomes extremely important that you have a certification that's recognized locally in the place where you are. So since in US, can everybody mute yourself if you don't have a question, please?
Chairman sir, mute everybody. Chairman sir, mute everybody.
Sir, muting. I'm checking everybody.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you about that. So the CPA exam and licensing. I wanted to go through this because I think it becomes, if you want to pursue a career in accounting or any of the related areas, it becomes important that you have a certification. So that's what I realized when I came to US and I wanted to pursue a career here. It doesn't have to be as soon as you come in here. If you're able to secure a job, it could be like at a later point of time, but definitely to progress in your career, you would need a CPA licensing. And for example, like if in Deloitte, like if you need to make a manager, you need to have a CPA or any other certification in order to make a manager level career. So I wanted to brief upon some of the aspects of how you can do what the details of the CPA exam and licensing are. So it requires definitely a lot of research when it comes to pursuing a CPA exam, which is because it has different kinds of requirements than what we have seen in CA. One is the minimum credits or hours requirements. So most of it is statewide. So it's unlike in India where we don't like differentiate at the state level. For CPA in US, it's at the state-wise requirements. So for example, I live in the state of Texas, and Texas has specific requirements which could be different from another state. And it gets confusing, but then once you get into the details and get a clarity on it, it'll get better. So if you're planning to pursue a CPA exam, I would strongly suggest that you refer to the NASPA website and get more details on the statewide specific details and how much of the credits is required and the hours requirements. And since the education you would have pursued, it would be in India, it would require an evaluation for the education that you have done outside of US. So you will need to go to the education evaluation agencies to get the evaluation done, which will be recognized by the state-wise boards. One interesting part, or I don't know if I should say it's that somewhere we kind of lack the recognition as a chartered accountant in US, is that you don't get as much of credits for the CA courses that you should be getting, because the CA is not is more than a certification, I would say. But when it comes to the education evaluation in US, you don't get as much of credits for CA, but you would actually get credits if you had done something like bachelor's and master's in India than doing a CA in India. So it's kind of unfortunate, I should say, in that area, but I hope it would get better as the recognition for CA gets better in US. And the CPA exam consists of 4 parts, which is audit, business environment and concepts, financial accounting and reporting, and regulation. So I think if you have passed the CA exam, which is so rigorous and comprehensive, you wouldn't have much a problem in passing these 4 parts. It's just the exam structure is different, but it's not as difficult, I would say, as CA. The CA is very rigorous and comprehensive, which makes it which is what gives the professionals a very good foundation. So passing these parts would not be very difficult if you're already a chartered accountant. And the CPA exam structure is kind of broken down into multiple choice questions, task-based simulations, and written communication tasks. And recently, this AICPA, which is the American Institute of CPAs, announced that they will have a pilot to launch in India. So that means that you can actually write the CPA exam in India, which is a good news if you didn't know that, because earlier you had to come to US or certain other countries which were offering the CPA exam to go and write the exam. But right now, having a pilot launch in India, it'll be a good news for people who are thinking of pursuing CPA, because you can write it in India. So, which is great news. And when it comes to licensing, to obtain a CPA license, it again is governed by the state boards. So you will have to fulfill certain requirements as per the state board. Like there is one of the apart from passing the CPA exam, you need to complete certain work experience and also do courses on ethics, which is the prerequisites to get the licensing requirements. And as you can imagine, that you would need a license to practice CPA in US. So it becomes important if you are pursuing a career where you're practicing. But also being in Big Fours or any of the other companies, they would prefer for you to maintain a license, because you will then be governed by the licensing rules and regulations, which will that means that you are up to date with your education. And another thing I want to talk about was the higher education that you could pursue in accounting. One is Master of Science, and you could major either in accounting or finance or any other related fields that you would like to, and MBA or PhD, and other certifications like CFA, CISA, or CMA. I know that some of you might be thinking that I've already done enough of studies for CA. Do I really need to do a higher education? But it's again coming back to having a local education to have more recognition for your career, and also it kind of helps in the immigration structure. And I will touch upon the immigration structure shortly in the further slides. And before I move on, I also want to say, like, if you're thinking of doing higher education in any of these areas, do think about what are the prerequisites for it, because you will know that you will need to write GMAT and TOEFL and other requisite entrance tests, because that will take some time and research in doing so. So start early if you're thinking about this. And coming to the probably the most important topic of this discussions is employment opportunities. So I think you all must be aware that anywhere you will either can pursue your career in a job, like in an employment opportunity, or you can practice on your own, being an accounting or like a CPA, I would call here in US, and also some freelancing. So since my experience is mostly in the job or employment, I would talk more on those opportunities today than the other two. There are plethora of opportunities when it comes to accounting professionals. As you know, that US is one of the strongest or the biggest economies in the world. So which brings upon like companies which are large in scale, in different industry sectors like technology, energy, communications, consumer, healthcare. So there are all those industries, and the companies in those industries bring about a lot of opportunities for accounting or finance professionals. So on some of the paths or some of the areas that I just wanted to briefly touch upon was like you can pursue your career in accounting, which is kind of similar to what you would have done in India if you were thinking about a career in India or anywhere else. So you could pursue like joining a company, or what we call it as specifically as industry, being an accounting professional or a finance professional in a company, or you could also pursue your career in audit and assurance. Let it be, it could be somewhat like a public accounting, audit and assurance experience, or it could even be like an internal audit experience in a company. And the other aspect it could be is the risk and financial advisory. So you could join like these public accounting firms, for example, like any of the big fours, and they have this group called risk and financial advisory. And it's not new to US, but it's not unique to US. You might have seen this in India as well, where you can join an advisory group, and you could be doing an accounting advisory, risk advisory, internal controls advisory, where you basically advise clients on the complex transactions and so. For example, my role is an advisory here in US. And most of the things that we do as an advisory group here is we advise on the complex transactions like derivatives and hedging. And if there's any new accounting standard. So in US, there was a new accounting standard that was issued like a couple of years ago. It's for the lease accounting. And we did a lot of work for the clients on this advising. And the other one is consulting. So as you can imagine, with the technology advancements, a lot of companies would go into implementing new technologies in their arena. So which is where the accountants or the CPAs or the chartered accountants will play a big role in enabling those technologies and advising from a finance or the financial reporting perspective. And then the industry specialization. I did want to talk about this here because once you come to US and you are exploring for opportunities, you will know that a lot of companies would prefer an industry specialization. So if you're applying for a job in a specific industry, they would look for experience in that industry. So if you're already thinking about like pursuing or coming to US and pursuing a job here, you might want to think about what industry you want to specialize in and kind of gain some experience in that industry to whatever extent you can. And I did want to talk about the skills development and networking because it becomes very important, although it's not in a very structured way, it becomes important in how you advance your career. One is soft skills, definitely. You will see here that it becomes very, very important on how your communication and development skills are. And most of the companies that you would join here, they would train you get to it, especially if you are in a client-facing role. It becomes extremely important that you have developed good soft skills. And also in today's environment, I don't really need to even say that it's important that you need to have technological advancements skills. So it's extremely important you develop knowledge on what's new and what's happening in the technology side. And I have seen that ICI offers free courses on the latest technologies. It would be good to go and leverage on those courses and pursue those. And of course, it doesn't have to be ICI, but it's just an easy way and an easy forum to do that. But do plan on developing those skills from that perspective. And networking, as anywhere else, it's important if you are pursuing a career here or anywhere else. So some of the places that you could do the networking is chartered accountant forums, conferences and seminars, and professional networking sites. So chartered accountant forums, you will find that in every city probably, because as you can imagine, the chartered accountant's presence is everywhere in US or anywhere else. So go and look for a forum that has a group of chartered accountants and also meet with them regularly. So this will help in pursuing the opportunities or getting aware of what's out there. And conferences and seminars gives you like an insight into the various arenas of networking, and you meeting new people and making new contacts. So that will be very helpful. And professional networking sites, somewhat like LinkedIn. So look for people who will be who are kind of similar, and sometimes I have seen that I have connected with chartered accountants in the local regions, so which has helped me gain knowledge and then also getting more contacts through that. So think about that, and then you can pursue that. And of course, when you're moving to a country, like how Pandu sir touched upon a lot of these aspects in his presentation, so it becomes important that you overall understand the overall structure it's going to be when you move into that specific country or a region. Is the one, when it comes to job, is the work culture. If you're already working in an MNC or like a big force in India, it's not going to be entirely different here. So you already would have got a flavor into what it will look like, the work culture wise, the the how intense the work is, how busy you will get, and how you interact with different teams and people around here in that specific company or a region. And the other thing is job stability. So as I was saying, that's where it is important that you have these skills and develop skills, and you have developed those skills, and you are always up to the what is latest in the technology. Because any industry or any profession, I would think that if you're not up to date, then the job stability comes into and it could be always a risk that it would pose for your continuity in your career. And the standard of living. The standard of living is very good here when it comes to infrastructure. I think the country offers like a very good infrastructure, which again is like a balance of how the cost of living is. So it kind of goes into the segue of how the cost of living would be. And the important aspects, as you can imagine, it's the medical expenses that you would have to bear. So it's not a state sponsored, unlike some other countries like Canada and anywhere else, in some of the other countries in the world, they offer a state sponsored or a government sponsored medical facilities, which is not the case today in US. So you will end up with kind of with quite a amount of medical expenses with respect to insurance and the other facilities. And for education, the the school education is free. So it's more to do, it's not just your education, but it's about when you move in it, your children or your dependents that who come with you. So the primary until high school, the education is government sponsored and it's free. But when it comes to higher education like college and the post graduation, it becomes expensive then. So it kind of is a thing that people around here they save for their children education from they even have a child is like 2 or 3 years old. They start saving for their college education. So it becomes that expensive, but it's good that at least the primary and the high school education is free. And taxes, I would say the average tax rate is is lesser than what it is in India, but it does have tax. So it's not tax free when like Middle East or other countries, but you will end up paying tax on your income, but not probably at the rate what you will pay in India. But there are other factors within tax that you might want to consider is you will pay something called SSN tax and some other taxes which depending on which region you live in, which will kind of make it a little more expensive than it would be. So it's not discouraging, but it's just an aspect to consider. And cost of living kind of gets into specific to regions. So if for example, if you want to live in New York or California, the cost of living is higher when it compared to the state I live in, which is in Texas. So it kind of becomes specific to regions. So if you want to relocate, you might want to think about which region you would want to relocate to. And the US immigration, I think this is one of the biggest aspects when it comes to pursuing a career. So unlike the other countries where you can have a path to permanent residency or citizenship, it's a long pathway when it comes to US. So if you need to come to US and work here, you definitely have to have a work authorization. And there are only limited ways where you can get those work authorization. So I'm not an immigration attorney or a lawyer to give you specific details, and that's why I didn't want to put any specific information on here on the slide, and it kind of changes. It kind of changes on the fly as we speak, the immigration rules and regulations. But some of the ways that you could get here is through the work visas to start with. So one of which is H-1Bs. So you might have read in news, or if you're aware of this visa, it is limited in number. So in every year they issues limited number of visas where you can apply and get that. And most of the years, or recently at least what I've seen, the number exceeds and then it goes into a lottery. So it's only a percentage of people that they applied for the visa get the H-1B visas. And H-1B visas is not, you can self-apply. A company has to sponsor you, and then you need to apply through the company. So for that, you already need to have a job offer for it. And the second means is if you have a working spouse already in US who has crossed a certain stage of green card processing, they call it I-140 here, and their spouses can have a work authorization. So if you have a work authorization, you don't have to do like an H-1B or any other immigration paths, but you could directly apply to a job if you have a work authorization already. And the other way is to get an intra-company transfer. So if you're already working for a company in India and you can get a transfer to US, and you have a separate visa category, they call it L1 categories, and you can continue to work in US through that. And these are the main visa categories. And through this, you will get into a pathway for going and getting a green card. But that's a long pathway especially for Indians. And depending on what categories, again, depends on how much time it will take. And the other one, which I was telling earlier about, is pursuing higher education. So if you want to pursue master's or an MBA here, once you finish your degree, you will be able to get something called OPT, which is depending on what kind of major that you are in, you will either get 12 months of OPT or up to 3 years of OPT, which means that the company employing you doesn't have to sponsor you a visa. But then under this OPT, they call it training time, and you can work with them and work with the company without any sponsorship, and the company can sponsor you an H-1B after or during that time. So and kind of I would want to share my experience or my story or my journey in how I started my career and where and to started my career to where I am today. I came to US in 2012. And initially, I started applying for jobs, and I did get a very good response. But the only hurdle was the U.S. immigration laws, where I didn't have a work authorization, being a spouse of an H-1B at that point of time. So I had to consider other arenas, and I did go into masters, pursuing a master's in Texas A&M University, because at some point of time I did want to pursue some higher education, and it was a good time for me to pursue higher education then. So I did my master's in accounting, and in the career placements I got selected Deloitte and I joined Deloitte as a consultant, and today, in 5 years, I'm a manager now. And definitely, a lot of things that I had done as a chartered accountant helped me grow in my career. And also, the work experience that I had in India was greatly considered when I was offered the job. And even today, um, when I have to perform my job, or the way I can be confident that I'm technically strong, comes from my CA background. So it's definitely has leveraged me to grow the career in US. So that's all I had to say about the immigration or the job opportunities in US. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, madam. I request the participants to raise any of the doubt or any clarification required from Shilpa ma'am. So, madam, regarding the CPA certification course, out of how many papers chartered accountants from Ballari or any from India are exempt from the examinations of the any subjects, or we have to do whole course?
Yeah, so currently there is no MOU or MRA with between ICAI and the ICPA. So you will need to do all the 4 courses. I mean, all the 4 parts.
The time period of the course is around 2 years or 3?
Is around 18 months. So earlier they used to have something called testing windows. And right now, I think they're moving into continuous windows. So you can write on any day. And you will need to finish all the 4 parts in 18 months time frame. Otherwise, you will lose the credits for the ones that you have already passed. So it's unlike CA, you don't have to do this continuously. So in CA, you write the exam for, like, if you're taking a final exam, you write all the 8 papers at once, or like all 4 at least at once. But in here, you can do one by one. So you can write the audit examination first. And then once you pass that, you can even take like 2 to 3 months time and then pass the next one. So, but they have just this window of 18 months where you need to finish all the 4 papers.
You can complete
So
the
it's
course
not as
through
rigorous.
online?
It's not
So online we
online,
can
but
do, or?
no, it's not online. I mean, it's online in the sense that you will be doing it on a computer, but you cannot do it from your home. You will need to go to the prometric centers that they
Yeah.
call, and then you need to do the exam there.
Yeah.
It's on a computer. They have it like a multiple choice question, and then task-based questions and the written communication task. I mean, communications, yeah.
Yeah, any other members?
Shilpa, this is Pandu here.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I would like to know, like, I mean, is it how easy or difficult to outsource any? I mean, to set an outsourcing shop in for especially like for US clients, is it easy or like very difficult? I mean, since I can say that like most of the chartered accountants can agree that like it's all like non-big four or non top 10 or top 20. Is it very easy or very difficult to start focusing on the outsourcing for the clients of US?
So are you talking about outsourcing from US, or are you talking
Outsourcing
about
from
getting
US,
work?
yeah, outsourcing from US,
Okay.
not from
So
employment company.
yeah, I mean, I have seen that people or like companies outsource work from here. For in fact, like Deloitte has its own Indian.
Yeah, Deloitte is an exception.
Yeah.
Very big company, they have outsourced. I mean, backend team is in India, but like compared to like let's say like we are targeting it very small. Let's say myself. if I want to set a shop in India, I mean, like basically target is like work local, earn global sort of stuff. So having a back-end team in India or any other developing nations targeting clients in US, how difficult is it?
I haven't personally explored it, but then what I have seen is there are a lot of opportunities. So I know, like when I go to this Chartered Accountant Forum, I have met one person who actually outsources her work to India. So from her company, she outsources the accounting work, and she manages the work from here, and she outsources it to India and kind of like does a review and then submits it to the company. So there are opportunities. I think it probably gets down to how good of a network that you will have. So you might have to find people who outsource and then get their job.
I mean, one more thing, like without having CPA, like will they see CPA certification as a compulsory requirement while outsourcing, or is it okay just with CA they can outsource the work?
I don't think CPA is a compulsory requirement. It would be a leverage. Like if they want to outsource it to somebody who has a CPA versus who doesn't have, they would choose somebody with a CPA. So that's the only difference. So it's not. I don't think it's a mandatory thing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Chairman sir, Ellur Swami sir.
Chairman sir.
Someone has raised the question.
Yeah, two questions are raised. Please take up.
Sir, job opportunities for ACCA in US.
So it's again, I think, comes down to how much the companies recognize. So even if you want to start a job or like apply for a job, it's not mandatory requirement that you have to have a certification. But once you grow in your career, they might have a requirement to reach a certain stage to have a certification. It could be either CPA or any of the recognized certifications in US. So yes, I think being an ACCA from UK, there might be some recognition just because there might be a lot of people who are from that background in US, so which gives that recognition, but it's not an automatic recognition as such.
One more, madam. Pilot project of launching CPA.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Pilot project of launching CPA.
Pilot launch. Yeah, from what I have seen on AICPA announcement that it was supposed to be launched on April 2nd. So it should have already been launched in India. So you can go to AICPA website to get those further details on it.
Okay, thank you. Any members can unmute themselves to ask the questions. If you want anybody. Okay.
I think we can.
Quick question. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
what might be the target salaries for any chartered accountant with 3 to 4 years of experience over there, and like which state might be a preferable choice for them to target?
I think to answer the question on the state per se, it will depend on what industry you want to specialize in. So, for example, if you are in energy sector like Texas, in Houston is an energy capital, so it will be Houston. And if you're in technology, let's say it will be somewhere on the West Coast. And maybe in the finance industry specialization, it's kind of in the East Coast. But of course, I think with the current situation where everything is remote, is changing. That a lot of companies are going into remote working, but it's something still uncertain. So if you want, depending on which industry you want to specialize in, you will be focusing on that state or region per se. With regard to salaries, again, it depends. Again, I was saying that it depends on which region you are in. So I think if I have to just ballpark a number, if you are in a big four and in your like in a 3 to 4 year experience, you will be seeing somewhere around 90K USD or 200K on an average. So it will be higher if you are in somewhere in the West Coast or on East Coast. But if you are on an average for the whole US, it'll be probably around 90K, or I would say, just to give a ballpark. Of course, it would change depending on the companies and industries.
Yes, ma'am. One more question, madam. Is there any articleship training included in 18 months of CPA course?
No, there is not. So there's no articleship training or any requirement for you to to write a CPA exam. But in order to get the licensing, it's again dependent on the state wise, because it's all regulated by the state boards. So if most of the state boards have it as a 1 year. So once you have a CPA exam and you start to clear your CPA exam and you've started working, with 1 year of experience, you can get a license.
Madam, what is the course fee, CPA course fee?
CPA course fee is around $1,000 on the whole, plus or minus depending on the tuition fees and things like that.
Yeah, similar to CA course in India, around 70,000, 1 lakh.
No, sir, CA fees is much lesser, right? Compared to this.
Totally, I mean, coaching and everything, books, vagara,
No, no, no.
totally 1 lakh.
Here, this is excluding the coaching itself is $1,000, so that's the fees for it. So,
Thank you.
Sir, any more questions? CPA of each subject. Yes.
One more question, Anu Swami, CPA for each subject.
say that again?
1 minute. Do you need fly to USA to write the CPA exams?
That's what until now you had to, but now with the pilot launch, you can write it in India. If that's gone effective, so you can go to AICPA website and see what the latest details are.
Sir, one more. For students undergoing CA, which other course recommends?
I think these are probably the options that I have seen. If you want to go into finance sector, probably CFA, accounting and audit, probably mostly the CPA. And again, because IFRS is becoming more relevant, it'll be good to do a certification in IFRS and the technological advancements as such.
Okay, sir. Can we end it now? I have one more question.
Yes.
One more question is there.
What is your opinion on UP grad MBA course, madam? Upgrade MBA course, sir.
So if you're, MBA course, it again depends on which university you do it from. If you do it from a good university, it will have its value, and it will help you in gaining an employment in a good company and the long-term career. And I see that somebody has asked about the minimum marks in each subject to pass. It's 75 in each subject for CPA exam, which is not
75%.
difficult as CA, I would think.
Madam, all the papers are multiple choice papers or any theory or?
Of them are multiple choice, but there is there are some sections in each of those paper, or at least one or two papers where you have written questions, like where you have to write an answer. And they also have something called simulation. So they give you, for example, like a case study kind of a thing, and you will have to fill in information, but you can still refer to the accounting standards and the other laws and regulations. So they'll have a reference guide right there. So you don't need to know what it is, but you can always refer to that there.
I can see everyone is planning for US now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I see someone asking, is CPA easy or tough compared to CA in India? In my personal opinion, CPA is definitely easier than CA in India.
Okay.
So CA is like very rigorous and comprehensive, and it has so much structure in it. Once you have done that, CPA is easy. But if you are pursuing CPA from the start, like if you don't have a CA and you want to do CPA, it might be a little more challenging or hard because that's where you're starting with. But if you already have done a CA, then it's easy.
Can we do CPA along with our CA course?
Yeah, you can. I don't think there's any restriction with it. If you can, if you want to study so much at once, then yeah, sure.
Is there any age restrictions for doing a CPA, madam?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's any restriction.
Sir Vinod sir,
Yes, sir.
can you go ahead?
Okay.
Yes.
It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks. On behalf of Hubli branch, Ballari branch, and Kalaburgi branch, I heartfully thank Pannara sir for presenting his keynote address. And special thanks to both the international speakers, Mr. Pandu and Ms. for accepting our invitation out of the busy schedule and presenting the paper on this meeting. I heartfully thank Chairman of the Hubli branch, Chairman of Ballari branch, and Kalaburgi branch, all the MC members for being with us on the program, and all the participants also I thank heartfully. And special thanks to Kiran sir and Gajraj sir for coordinating with the speakers for the today's program.
Yes.
I once again thank you all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir. Pandu sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
This is the history in the Ballari branch. First time we have invited the international speakers, and Pandu sir and Shilpa ma'am are the first speakers of the Ballari for international topic.
I'm greatly honored.
Okay, can we close that, sir?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very
Thank
much. Thank you, sir. Pandu sir, once again.
Bye bye.
Yes, bye. Bye. Terminated.